All right, so let's jump into the world of IT certifications. More specifically, the CompTIA A+ exam.
It's a really great choice. A lot of people are going for that one these days. Um,
It's really popular for a reason. I mean, you've told us this is like earning your stripes, this certification.
yeah, definitely. It's like the gold standard, that tells employers you're ready to handle the basics. It's globally recognized, too.
And it's actually kind of confusing because there are like two parts to it, right? So we're only talking about the Core 1 exam for this deep dive.
Yeah, exactly. Just the core one, which is like the first hurdle to clear, I guess you could say.
And we're calling it Core 1 for simplicity, but it's technically the 220-1101 exam.
Yeah, 220-1101, that's the one.
Okay, so you've given us a ton of great information about it, like a detailed breakdown of what's on it, scoring, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And we're going to take all that and try to make it as clear as possible for our listeners.
Absolutely, and I think this will be really helpful for people. Think of it like we're putting together a roadmap to this whole certification thing.
I like it, a roadmap. So where do we even begin with something like this? Like, what's the first thing someone needs to know about this exam?
Well, you've got 90 minutes to answer up to 90 questions.
Okay, so pacing is going to be key.
Yeah, for sure. You've got to know your stuff. It's a mix of multiple choice and then performance-based questions, which we'll get into later.
Okay, we'll unpack those a little later. And to pass, what is it, 700?
You need to get 675 out of 900 to pass.
So you can't just squeak by here.
No, you really got to understand the core concepts here. Not just like memorize a bunch of facts.
Yeah.
And that's where those performance-based questions come in.
Okay, so tell me about these performance-based questions. What should someone expect to see on the exam?
Well, let's say you're learning about how to configure a network, right? Instead of just answering a multiple choice question about it, they might actually like put you in a simulated network environment and be like, okay, configure this thing.
Oh, wow, so they're really testing you. They're not messing around. That's intense. But it's cool, though. It shows they're serious about it. It's not just like a cakewalk or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They want to make sure you really know your stuff.
Yeah.
Because like we were saying, this certification, it's supposed to be like having actual experience, right?
Yeah, in our notes, it even says something about 12 months of hands-on experience. Like, how can they even fit all that into one exam?
Right. So it's designed to test you on the kinds of things you'd learn in a year of working in IT.
Yeah.
Obviously, nothing can replace real experience,
Right,
but it's a good foundation.
right.
And that's why they break it down into these 5 domains, or exam objectives, as they call them.
Okay, so it's like 5 main areas you need to know about.
Exactly. Each one covers a different aspect of IT, and they all build on each other.
Okay, let's hear it. What are these 5 domains?
So we've got hardware and network, troubleshooting mobile devices, and virtualization and cloud computing.
Okay, so those are broad categories, though.
Right.
Like, what specifically falls under hardware, for example?
Good point. So hardware's a big one. It's actually a whole quarter of the exam,
Wow, 25%.
25%. So it's really important to know that stuff inside and out. Things like motherboards, CPUs, RAM.
Okay, so the actual physical components of a computer.
Exactly. You need to know what they are, how they work, and how to troubleshoot them.
Okay, that makes sense. And then networking is next, right? So that's probably a big chunk too, because everything's connected these days.
You get it. Networking is huge, it's 20%.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding how computers talk to each other.
So like Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yeah, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, IP addresses, all that fun stuff.
Okay, and then I see hardware and network troubleshooting is its own category. So that's combining the first two.
Yeah, they saved the best for, well, maybe not the best, but it's the biggest section, 29%.
Wow, almost a third of the exam.
Yep, because in the real world, you're going to be fixing problems all the time. So they really want to make sure you can handle that.
That makes sense. So it's not just about knowing the theory, but actually being able to apply it.
Exactly. And this is where those performance-based questions come in handy,
Mm-hmm.
because they'll give you real-world scenarios to solve.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. All right, what about mobile devices? What's that all about?
So that was all about smartphones, tablets, all the portable stuff. It's a growing field, and it makes up about 15% of the exam.
15%. Okay. So is it like how to set up email on your phone and stuff, or is it more complicated than that?
It's more than that. You'll learn about different operating systems, security settings, how to troubleshoot connectivity issues, all sorts of things.
Okay, so it's more in depth than I thought. And then the last one, virtualization and cloud computing. That sounds kind of intimidating.
It does sound intimidating, right?
Yeah.
But it's really not as bad as it sounds. It's only 11% of the exam.
11%. Okay, that's not as much as I thought. But it still sounds pretty complex. Like, what even is cloud computing?
It sounds fancy, but it's basically just using the internet to access computing power and storage instead of having everything on your own computer.
Oh, okay. So, like, instead of saving everything to your hard drive, you're saving it to the cloud. I've heard of that.
Exactly. And it's becoming more and more common. Businesses are using it a lot now.
Makes sense. It's probably more efficient or something.
It is. It's really changing the IT landscape. And that's why it's on the exam, even though it's a smaller percentage.
So, this A+ exam really does cover a lot of ground. From the nuts and bolts of hardware to this cloud computing stuff, it's a lot to take in.
It is. But that's what's great about the A+. Plus. It gives you this broad overview of IT. And like we were talking about before, it's supposed to be like getting a year's worth of experience all at once.
Right, that 12 months of experience thing. For someone who's just starting out, that seems kind of impossible. Like, how can you get that experience if you haven't actually, worked in IT?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And honestly, the best way is to just get your hands dirty, even if it's just on your own time.
What do you mean? Like, what could someone do?
Well, think about it. If your internet goes out at home, don't just call the cable company. Try to troubleshoot it yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most people wouldn't even think to do that.
Exactly. But that's the kind of experience that employers are looking for. Someone who's willing to dive in and solve problems.
Okay, so it's like real world problem solving, not just memorizing facts from a book.
You got it. And another good thing to do is help out your friends and family with their tech issues.
Oh, yeah, be the tech support person for your family.
Exactly. Everyone's got that one person they go to for help with their computer or phone.
That's so true. All right, so basically, it's all about finding ways to apply the knowledge.
Precisely. Because at the end of the day, that's what the A plus is all about, making sure you have the skills to actually do the job.
This has been a great deep dive. I've learned a lot. We've covered so much about the A+ Core 1 exam, the format, the different domains, those performance-based questions. It's a lot to process.
It is a lot, but honestly, even just listening to this deep dive and taking notes is a huge step in the right direction.
True, and it's important to remember that anyone can do this right.
Absolutely. It just takes time and dedication. And like anything else in life, a little bit of confidence goes a long way.
I love that confidence is key. Well, on that note, I think we've covered just about everything. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
Just remember, the A plus is just the beginning of your IT journey. There's a whole world of possibilities out there. So keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that. Great advice. Well, that's it for this deep dive into the CompTIA A+ certification. We hope you feel empowered to tackle this exam and launch your IT career. Until next time, happy studying.